Don't hurt her. Don't hurt her.
In this investigation, we're going to show you what happens when the police, acting on instructions from the family court, uplift a child from a parent's home.
Oh, that poor kid, Jesus. That's unbelievable.
I just think that is beyond barbaric. We describe it as state-sanctioned abuse. I can't think of another way to describe it.
Many of these orders are what's called without notice, meaning that the police can turn up at any time and take the child. We're allowing that, aren't we?
Well, we are allowing it, obviously. I mean, we're allowing it through enforcement of court orders, and I think we're getting it awfully wrong.
We will now show you this video in its entirety. The child, who is not in any imminent danger, is being uplifted by the state. The little girl was about to go to bed when 3 police officers arrived with a warrant to take her. Issued under instructions from the family court, the warrant allows police to uplift a child without notice and use reasonable force if necessary. The mother lives with her parents. The child's grandfather is seen here.
Don't hurt her. Don't hurt her. Do not hurt her. Oh, for goodness sake. No, don't you hurt her.
Could this situation be so bad that the police and family court had to act in this way? This wasn't a drug house or a violent situation. The child's physical safety wasn't in question, despite a warrant suggesting it might have been.
Don't you call me what you are.
Back off, all right? Just calm down, all right? This isn't good for anyone.
But the mother had breached a family court order by not returning the child to the father 2 days earlier.
They're taking her away.
Just vomit, darling. Just vomit.
Oh, that's terrible. That is absolutely... Oh, Jesus.
Professor Mark Hennigan is Dean of the Law School at the University of Otago.
Torn out of your home at night. It's terror. It's like watching something out of, war in Syria. It's awful.
Do you think that family court judges might think twice if they saw a video clip, for example, of a child being removed?
I absolutely think so. The trauma for that child, you're going to be physically picked up and placed somewhere you don't want to be. I mean, any adult would say, what sort of state are we living in? We're living in a police state. We're not. I mean, we'd never use a warrant to force a parent to say, look, you haven't visited your child this weekend, we're going to pick you up, we're going to take you over. I'm sorry, but no, we're going to pick you up and we're going to we're going to pick you up in a warrant, we're going to put you in a police car in handcuffs and we're going to take you over to see that. And that would never happen. So the fact we do it to children, really, we have to ask ourselves some hard questions. They have no choice in the matter, and they're forced to do something that they don't want to do.
So what the hell are we doing then?
Well, we're doing it in the name of enforcing court orders, but that's the name of it. In other words, the system has to be seen to be working.
Unfortunately, what we're hearing from women around the country is that the police are being used in situations where the children are in absolutely no imminent danger at all.
Deborah McKenzie is the co-founder of Backbone, a group which helps women through the family court process.
From talking to so many women, using the police to uplift is a common method the family court use to take children from one parent and place them in another parent's care.
So what do you think about what's happening?
We describe it as state-sanctioned abuse. I can't think of another way to describe it.
I guess the difficulty is, you've got complex custody disputes and you've also got, in this country, a really horrendous record of abuse against children. So is it not that just everyone, the police, the courts, are doing their jobs?
If a child was, about to get hurt, either was in danger of hurting themselves or being hurt by somebody else, you would expect to call 111 and to have someone intervene. That's what we imagine. But when the family court is using that service to just take the child from one family situation and put them into another, I think that's barbaric, and it's definitely the wrong use of force.
I want to show you a case that I'm working on of an uplift. I think you've seen aspects of this video, but I want you to tell me what you think about this. Suppression orders from the family court prevent us from reporting on the details of a complex custody dispute. But having read the documentation, there seems little to justify the trauma this child was put through. Now, the little girl, she lives full-time with her father and was with her mother at a weekend access visit. Now, this is a sequence of events that followed as we understand it. On Sunday the 11th of June, the mother takes her child to the airport to put her on a plane back to her father. The child becomes inconsolable, refusing to board the plane. The child's father is advised by police of the situation. The police report says that the child became upset to the extent that Air New Zealand refused to take her due to her behaviour. The father is advised that the child will be driven to his address the next day. Following the airport drama, the child returns home with her mother. That evening, the mother sends an explanatory email to the court-appointed lawyer for the child, asking if she will come and see her and her daughter. The lawyer emails back declining, warning the mother, "You are in breach of the parenting order." The next morning, worried about the well-being of her daughter, the mother takes her to the family doctor. So the mother didn't make that 7-hour drive and return her child to the father. Instead, she took her daughter to the doctor. Now, we can't tell you the ins and outs of that doctor's visit, but what we can tell you is that later on that Monday afternoon, the child was assessed by 2 SIFS workers. Now, they concluded that she wasn't at risk living with her father. Now, at this point, the mother says she asked the SIFS workers what she should do now because she was meant to have returned her daughter to the father. She says they told her it was too late to travel now, not to worry, as they knew where the child was and would be in touch the next day. So the next day, Tuesday, the mother waits with her daughter to be contacted. Meantime, down country, the father applies for a without notice warrant to uplift the child, claiming her safety is at risk. The duty judge grants the uplift warrant, relying in part on the father's claims and that the child has not been returned in accordance with the parenting order. The mother is unaware of any of this. By late afternoon, concerned she hasn't heard from SIFS, she twice calls their office. Unable to get hold of the social worker, she calls the police. Both the lawyer for the child and the ministry know what is about to happen.
Don't hit her. We're not hitting her. Oh, for goodness sake. No, don't you hit her.
You don't have to watch it all.
I'm so sorry, Melanie.
Pretty heart-wrenching, isn't it?
How could they corner a child behind a couch in order to snatch that child away from somewhere where she didn't want to leave? As a mother, I just think that is beyond barbaric.
But what you're telling me is that you have many cases
Yeah.
where you're hearing about this.
Yeah. And the shocking thing about seeing that footage is I think as New Zealanders we hear about, children being uplifted and we don't imagine what uplift looks like or feels like. It just contravenes every right that children have to be safe in this country, and I think the New Zealand public will be outraged and so disturbed, just like I am.
So in this case, the mother wasn't hiding or running from the police. The agencies knew where she was.
So the $1 question, $1 question is, why did they need to exert so much force? Why?
That video showed me it doesn't matter what's happened, that is not in the best interest to remove that child at that moment, at that time, at all. Could not be. The child is so terrorised, you just cannot do it. I don't care what's happened in the past. And there's no risk to that child from the parent, obviously, that they're living with. It's such an extreme thing to do, you cannot do it lightly. Any intervention like this has got to have so many checks and balances and so many first steps before you do it.
What needs to happen?
Well, I think, first of all, judges need to see these videos. I would have thought judges should look at these videos and say, gosh, is that what it's like for children when they definitely...
Let me show you another one. This is another case of a police uplift, this time a teenage boy being taken from his father. Earlier this year, the boy, 14 years old, refused to be returned to his mother following a holiday with his father. The boy wanted to stay with his father and sister, but a court order said he must be returned to his mother.
I don't want to leave. No, Dad, please, can I at least say goodbye to him again?
There's nothing I can do about it.
Dad, I don't.
That's just awful. And that's just awful. He's a 14-year-old boy. One of the things in the legislation which is required, and we were world leaders in this, but we're ignoring it here, is that the court is required to take into account the views of the child. This person is making very clear views. I don't want to go. Totally ignored. The state is using physical force to remove him. He's 14. In fact, he may be only 18 months away from being 16. He can do whatever he likes. And then we're forcing him at 14 to do something he doesn't want to do. I just cannot believe that you would make an order like that for a 14-year-old.
Here is the letter that boy, I just showed you the video of, wrote to the judge.
And he's told the lawyers, the expert for the court, I know all these people, and I wish to live with Dad. It seems to me that no one has listened to me. So sad. Please, please listen to me and let me live with my dad, because a 14-year-old boy needs his father, and he's clearly intelligent, he's clearly written it very eloquently, and it goes against the fundamental tenets of the legislation. The court is required to listen to children. And
well, the court didn't listen to him.
Yeah, and his reasons make perfect sense.
My question is, when the police can come in and pick up a child to enforce an interim parenting order, I mean, what is going on in this country?
Yeah, I think what's happening is the desire to enforce court orders, which there is power to do, is overriding any consideration of what the Act's about, which is the welfare of children. So in this
so
particular
is the system failing?
In this particular exercise of these discretions under the Act, it is failing, yes.
So what needs to happen?
Well, I think, first of all, judges need to be reminded that when you are issuing a warrant to remove a child, you must have up-to-date circumstances of what's happening with regard to that child, and then the warrant has to be the absolute last thing. You try every other method to encourage the parent to be able to get the child to be handed over. To do this way, it's a failure, because at the end of the day, the child's going to be so traumatized, it's never going to work. So you've lost at that point.
Do you think the judges understand the effects of them signing those warrants?
Maybe not, because for the judge it's a piece of paper, and they see the piece of paper and they sign the piece of paper. They're not actually physically there when the child is removed. And so, I mean, I'm sure some judges, if they saw the reaction of some children, may look at it very, very differently. And I would require, if I had the authority, to get every family court judge to watch that video.
Do you think that the mum will be criticised for not going to her child, instead filming the uplift of her child?
Yeah, I think she will, but I think she showed great presence of mind to film that, because New Zealand needs to know that this is going on. If she went out to her friends and family in the community and said, oh my gosh, it was night time and the police came and my child was hiding and screaming for me and didn't want to go with them, and the police forced her away, you wouldn't believe it, would you? You wouldn't.
Yeah. They're taking her away.